Attention Ditto Heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the Soul of Excellence.
He is a radio host at 77 WABC here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's Bo Snerdley.
Welcome, my friends. We are growing ever closer toward that date. The early voting has begun in many states. In fact, in Georgia, and I believe in North Carolina, over 1 million in each state people have decided to vote early. Good. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us this afternoon. If you want to be part of the program, 800-848-9222. So much news. Of course, dominated with the campaigning that is going on in swing states. What's her name? Harris was out in Michigan over the weekend, and she brought out the heavy hitters. She brought out Usher. She brought out Lizzo. Lizzo famously declared that if we elect Kamala Harris will do for the United States what has been done for Detroit. In other words, the United States will look like Detroit, will be like Detroit if we just elect Kamala Harris. I don't know about you, but if I wanted my city to look like any city I could pick, the first city, nothing against the people of Detroit. I mean, you're good people, but, well, some of you, most of you. However, wouldn't be my first choice. I would love to know what you think about the visit to McDonald's. Heard Curtis and Dominic talking about that. I was watching some of that live as Donald Trump donned, no pun intended, the apron and got busy at the fry station at McDonald's and then served people through the drive-in window, which was pretty cool, especially when he said that what they were receiving was on the house, courtesy of Donald Trump. That was pretty cool. The left losing their minds at PMSNBC. They're constantly criticizing it over the weekend as some sort of harebrained stunt. They don't understand, I guess, the value of that, and it was, of course, to make a point about Kamala Harris. There are other things in the news aside from the election worth spending at least a moment or two on. I have a headline that is from Government Exec today. I love this headline. Or it was yesterday. Labor Department to require workers to spend half of work time in person, angering union. The Labor Department, the Department of Labor, the Labor Department, their largest employee union is accusing Labor Secretary Julie Su of shirking her duty to negotiate with the workforce after she announced that she's going to implement new telework restrictions later in the year. How much time is there left? We're talking the next few months, and these people are fit to be at the Labor Department, the Work Department, the work people. The union is upset beyond belief because the Labor Secretary is actually demanding that people show up to work. People that are employed, you have to come to work at least some of the time. And that has got the American Federation of Government Employees totally upset. The idea that government workers must sometimes show up. The Department of Justice is deploying district election officers from Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. They're fanning out across the nation ahead of Election Day to ensure that poll workers can do their jobs free from threats and intimidation. Because you know how you people are. You want to intimidate those poor poll. Yeah. How dare you? Ask them to actually, don't hide stuff. So, and government workers, poll workers, feel intimidated when people are looking at them doing their jobs. So, U.S. attorneys' offices announced that their district election officers, which are selected each election cycle to coordinate with the Election Threats Task Force and federal, state, and local law enforcement, will be out in force on Election Day. That should just make you feel so much better about things. Merrick Garland's task force. Election officers fanning out to troubled areas, or maybe not so troubled areas, to areas that Democrats... Okay, it doesn't say that in the article, but I do think... I bet you if we had a map and we could see where these election officers are going to go, you want to bet some of them show up in Fulton County, for instance? I wonder if maybe we might have some in Cook County. Maybe we'll have some in Philadelphia. Maybe we'll have some of these election offices in very, very, very populous swing states in Democrat headquarters so that things can be monitored. Monitored with no interference from people who want to threaten and intimidate poll workers. I don't know about you, but I just feel hot diggity dog. Okay. Turning away, I said we were going to turn away from the election, and I just turned right back to it. Let's turn away from it again, because there are other things in the news. There's a story in the Washington Post. Diego, can you check the library and see if we have the theme song to that Charlie Sheen show, Men, lying around anywhere? There's an off chance that it's in there somewhere. I don't know. Nope. Doesn't look like it. You know the song? You'll have to sing it.
Man.
Yeah, but you know the rest of the lyrics.
No. That's all I know about it.
Okay, it goes, men, 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 men.
Oh, yeah,
men.
that.
Okay, that. At the appropriate moment, please, since we don't have it in the library, you're a musician, you're a singer, I need some help with this story, okay? Carlos, do you know the song, you know the theme song to Men?
2.5 Men?
You sing it with Diego. Since we don't have it in the library. I'll cue you for it when I need it. You ready? You guys ready in there? Okay, good. All right, here's the story, folks. It's about P. Did it. It's about P. Did it. Yes. Growing number. This is from the Washington Post, of all places. Growing number of men accuse Sean Diddy Combs of sexual assault. That's the headline. Sean Diddy Combs is facing a new wave of sexual assault lawsuits this week, with 7 new complaints filed against the music mogul in New York courts Monday morning. That was this morning. Or if you are Ebonic, that was this morning. Anyway, the recent deluge of lawsuits included 6 filed last week, all by a team of lawyers led by Texas attorney Tony Busby, who promises up to 120 lawsuits in total over time. They've all been submitted anonymously. They accuse Combs of a range of sexual abuses. Most of the complainants allege that they were drugged before they were assaulted. But this is where the Washington Post draws a distinction. You guys get ready. Washington Post says, but these lawsuits stand out for another reason. Yes, they do. These lawsuits stand out for another reason. The majority have been filed by men. Eight of the 13 of the most recent complaints come from male accusers.
Manly men.
Including two who say they were minors at the time of the assault. So they weren't even manly men. They were boys. Still, several accusers claim they were working for or had worked for with the superstar producer prior to the encounters they are suing over. In total, 25 sexual lawsuits have been filed against Combs in the past year. But as the Washington Post says, but these lawsuits stand out for another reason. The majority of them have been filed by men.
Men.
Now, help me, y'all. What difference does it make? We're supposed to look, right? Aren't we told that it's something istic or some ism or something if you differentiate things like that? I mean, the famous Jerry Seinfeld line, isn't it okay for a man to love another man? I mean, why are they making a big deal out of the Washington? This is something that you would expect to hear on maybe a playground somewhere.
A lawsuit
Did you know?
is a lawsuit.
What?
A lawsuit is a lawsuit, no matter who files it.
Exactly. What difference does it make whether? Why is the Washington Post of all publications telling us? But these lawsuits stand out for another reason. The majority have been filed by men.
Manly men.
I thought it wasn't supposed to make a difference. Didn't you think that too? I mean, and by the way, you guys are getting compliments. The harmonies are good. Everything's working in there.
Why, thank you.
Yeah. But I read this and I'm stunned at the Washington Post. Why wouldn't they just say they were sexual assault lawsuits? Why would the Washington Post say them? But the big difference here, this is man on man, mano o mano, mano o mano, whatever you call it. This is men. The majority of these suits have been filed by men.
Manly men.
It's the Rush Hour with Bo Snerdley.
Rush
on 77 WABC. This is a 77 WABC News. Road to the election update.
New polling data points to a growing trend. Latino voters are increasingly becoming Republican voters. That's per a survey from the Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation. Mark Jones ran the poll.
What we found here is that Harris is doing better among Hispanics than Biden was, but still has only a 6% lead over Trump. Republicans in the past were in the mid-30s. Now they're increasingly in the mid-40s.
Jones says they asked why Hispanics were voting for Trump. 1 in 5 respondents cited border security. And Jones says the poll found that Latinos prefer Vice President Kamala Harris over President Joe Biden, but by an increasingly shrinking percentage.
What we've seen, especially over the past decade, is a movement among Texas Hispanics towards the Republican Party.
And these overall trend lines not lost on Democrats. The Harris-Walz campaign kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month with a $3 million investment in Spanish-language radio ads, with Harris also holding an event earlier this week in Austin, Texas. Meanwhile, local officials in Texas say a Venezuela street gang called Tren de Aragua is coming across the border into Texas, but not staying there. In fact, many of their members have arrived here in New York City, where cops blame the gang for a string of thefts in high-end retail stores. And then further out on the West Coast, there's been a shift in California Latinos' support level for Vice President Kamala Harris, 54% backer compared to 35% for Trump. That's per a new poll from UC Berkeley and the LA Times. But it marks a significant drop from 4 years ago when Joe Biden won 75% of California's Latino vote. Harris's attempts to gain support with that demographic include a Univision town hall that was held in Las Vegas. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with Bo Snerdley.
Rush.
1942, Elvin Bishop is born. Guitarist. This was, of course, his big one. Fooled around and fell in love. Mr. Mike weighed in. Always love it when Mr. Mike weighs in. This case with P. Diddy that the Washington Post is... But, this is different, folks. All of the people that are making these charges against Diddy, they're men. They're men. And Mr. Mike just said, look, these are not hate crimes. These are love crimes. Yes. Good distinction there. Liz Cheney has been out campaigning this weekend with Kamala Harris. Here's the headline, and you pro-life folks out here, and we have many people in this audience that are pro-life, that appreciate the sanctity of life. And once upon a time, Liz Cheney had convinced all of you and many of us that she was a kindred spirit. Here is the headline today from the New York Times. Cheney, with Harris, tells anti-abortion women it's okay to back her. It's okay to back Kamala. Now, let me just fix the headline. Liz Cheney, with Kamala Harris, tells pro-life women that it's okay to back abortion. That's the fix of the headline. That's what it means. Former Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming on Monday sought to give voters who oppose abortion rights explicit permission to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, suggesting during a town hall-style event with Ms. Harris that Republican restrictions on abortion rights had gone too far. It's too far. It's gone too far. So Liz Cheney, once who cast herself as pro-life, in Malvern, Pennsylvania, made the remarks because that particular county is where Ms. Harris is making a concerted pitch to Republican women in the suburbs. Many of them have spent years voting for candidates opposed to abortion rights. Let me fix that too. Many of them have spent years voting for candidates who favored the sanctity of life and wanted to save as many human babies as possible. Just as Mrs. Cheney had claimed to do during her career in Congress. Now, Ms. Cheney, a vocal critic of former President Donald Trump, is telling these women they can back Ms. Harris with a clean conscience. So, there you have it. You pro-life women, Liz Cheney is now giving all of you permission, and you must need it from her, permission to just throw your principles out of the window and go ahead and vote for Kamala Harris. Because she supports as many abortions as humanly possible. Two words that don't quite seem to go together. However, that's that. We have a call. Initially, when I saw the topic, my first reaction was a guttural one. I said, what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tread down that pathway. But then I had second thoughts. Perhaps this is a sentiment that's out there, and your host needs to deal with it. So we welcome to the program Andrew from New Jersey. And Andrew, what is it that you would like to say this afternoon?
I wanted to say it's an example of media bias and a sentiment that's probably not out there. Kamala Harris's past with Willie Brown, which is a form of prostitution. You had once said everybody boinks someone, so you downplayed it. But I say it's good that you're not a follower if you have that attitude. And that's also sexist because most women that achieve any job or status, they didn't do it by sleeping with a Willie Brown or Bill Clinton, sleazy type character. So she was 33 years younger than him. So I don't think it was a relationship where she genuinely. So
all of a sudden now, Andrew, you have determined that you know the ins and outs of Kamala Harris's relationship with Willie Brown. And in your view, you have now called the woman a prostitute.
Everybody knows she wouldn't be attracted to this old married.
How do you know? How do you know that? No, everybody doesn't know that. That is what you believe. But people don't know it. And I, for one, don't believe in calling women, throwing around the word prostitute for women. I think that's shameful, frankly.
It's shameful that she took the job. If she wasn't,
you don't know that. You don't know what her motivations were. You don't know. You're just sitting there on your armchair, wherever you're sitting or standing, thinking that. Now, look, I'm not saying that women and men don't use sex to advance other things. But this judgment that she's a prostitute, no. I think that's despicable. I think you should apologize
wouldn't she turn down the job offers from him and the cars and all the...
You don't know what the nature of the relationship is, just like nobody knows the nature of your relationships. Look, I'm all for going for people on policy. I'm all, once in a while, for going after people, period, in the political... But look, I mean, come on, there got to be some line somewhere. And I think you just crossed one, and you owe the woman an apology.
When I was
Are
younger,
you ready to give Kamala Harris an apology?
I will, but first let me say I was into acting when I was younger, and I was handsome. In my 20s, had I slept with the 60-year-old producer of the TV show Central Park West, which flopped, if I did that, that would be a form of prostitution.
Who knows whether she would want to ever sleep with you?
She probably would have, but I would have done it.
She probably, if you had called her a prostitute, she probably wouldn't have.
No, I would be the prostitute, not the...
Well, it doesn't matter. Hoe's a hoe. I mean, come on. Quibbling over who's hoeing around. Okay, never mind. Thank you for the call. You're not going to apologize to Kamala. You should, calling her those awful names. We got to go anyway. It's time to check in with Kim Commando. On this day, Scottish singer Lulu started a 5-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles charts. The film To Sir With Love, starring Sidney Poitier. What was this film about? Wasn't it about a young that falls in love with and he was older, but he was also, wonder if anybody... Also, a birthday today, Lee Loughlin, American trumpeter, flugelhorn player. Amazing work from this man over the years with Chicago. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley. Time to check in with Kim Commando with traffic. Your calls welcome, 800-848-9222. Do not go away.
This is The Rush Hour with Bo Snerdley.
Bo Snerdley.
On 77 WABC.
They don't call her Confiscation Kamala for nothing. Don't take it from us.
And I support a mandatory buyback program.
A mandatory buyback program? That means the government forcing you to turn in your firearms. To what lengths would Kamala go? Well, she doesn't even support the individual right to own a firearm.
I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country.
We get it. Sometimes it's tough to understand what she's talking about. But on the Second Amendment and your rights, Confiscation Kamala has been crystal clear. Her gun control agenda comes straight from that petri dish of bad ideas that is California. She can claim to be a gun owner all she wants, but we all know she's the same anti-gun California radical she's always been. Don't be left defenseless. Defeat Confiscation Kamala. Vote Trump like your life depends on it, because it does. NRA Political Victory Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. NRAPVF.org.
It's The Rush Hour with Bo Snerdley.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush.
Now, here's Bo Snerdley.
All right, Diego, who's this? Why are we doing it?
Hey, Jason. This is the Go-Go's because on this day, in 1953, Charlotte Cathy of the Go-Go's was born.
Yay.
They released in 1982, their number 2 single, We Got the Beat, which is what you're listening to now, as well as the UK number 47 single, Our Lips Are Sealed. Many hits for the Go-Go's until, I think they broke up in 84, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it came and passed me. I didn't even know.
Came and passed me, but then Belinda Carlisle with her successful solo career and...
yes.
Yeah, she did pretty good. Anyway, happy birthday to Charlotte Cathy, born on this day in 1953. Back to you, Bo.
Thank you much. You know, Noam Laden is in the house. I haven't talked with Noam in I don't know how long. And we play, of course, and love his series that he has been doing, The Road to the Election. And that road is starting to get really narrow about now. We've got, 15 days left, Noam?
It is, exactly 15 days. Tomorrow it'll be 14 days, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So, you have been following this long time. We love you long. And you have been through the ups, the downs, the hills, the valleys.
Yeah.
Your take on where this election is right now, the presidential race.
Oh, God. I mean, anybody who claims to know, I think, doesn't know what they're talking about. Both sides, of course, are telling you that their internal polling is telling them that they're winning. And then you look at these public polls, and you can't really believe any of them because there's the thumb on the scale depending on who's doing the polling, either the left side or the right side, so you can't really believe that. And then, of course, there's always that secretive Trump vote that we hear about that people are sometimes afraid to tell pollsters that they're voting for Trump. I don't believe that's there as strongly this time around as maybe it was back in 2016. But it is interesting to see where they are today, right? So you have the former president is down in Asheville, North Carolina, looking at the storm damage. And we've heard pretty serious stuff from him today after yesterday being at the side of the French fryer in Pennsylvania. And then for Harris, she's carting around former Republican Congresswoman Lynn Cheney. And what's interesting, Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney. And what's interesting about that is initially, you'll remember they brought her out in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago. And my guess is there's something to suggest that her appearance alongside Harris may be working with some women voters who are undecided, because here she is again for a number of events. Today, Liz Cheney's with Kamala Harris in the Philly suburbs, Bucks County, which sometimes goes Republican, sometimes goes Democratic, and it's all women on stage, or mostly all women at stage at this event. So maybe they're seeing something that suggests she's actually helping out the campaign, but anybody who thinks they know how this is going to end, I would say they don't really know.
Well, I'll tell you what. Today, the Decision Desk HQ, and the Hill say that Donald Trump has overtaken Kamala Harris for the first time in their election forecast. They claim their model that he has a 52% chance of winning the presidency, while Harris has a 48% chance. Those were the numbers that they came out with yesterday. Also, if you look down ticket, now it's funny you mentioned that what's taking place in Pennsylvania. The Cook political report today shifted the Senate race there from the toss-up category and moved it, and they moved the Nebraska Senate contest from likely to lean Republican. Now, this Pennsylvania race, which was leaning Democrat before, being a toss-up, it's just shows you exactly what it is. This thing is so close. Nobody can figure out what's going on in Pennsylvania with any degree of certainty, I think. But in speaking with other pollsters, one of the things I've heard consistently now is that all of this is within margin of error, but Trump is leading, apparently, in the majority of the battleground states. Are you hearing that too?
Yeah, well, the numbers are definitely trending his way in these polls. And what's also interesting, James, is this early voting stuff that's coming in, because now a number of more states are now piling on and doing early voting. Just in Michigan alone, 1 million absentee ballots have already been cast. In Florida today, it was the first day of early voting in Florida. In Broward County, the machines went down because it was so overwhelmed by the amount of people voting. So what's exciting and I think great about that is there's clearly keen interest. Americans are really watching this race really closely. But now you got to figure out where those votes are coming from to maybe give you a better idea of who's ahead.
Now, there are also some scare here. I have an Associated Press story, and Headline says some Jewish voters in presidential swing states are reconsidering their longtime devotion to Democrats. That could be, of course, what we've seen this year with a lot of the protests, which I call the pro-Hamas. I don't expect the pro-Hamas protests that were out, and I just wonder if this is real. And if you combine that, there was a long story in either Washington Post, New York Times, I forgot which broke down the black vote in Georgia. And one of the things that it showed is Donald Trump is outperforming. He was down from 30% of the black male vote, but it's still like 26, 25%. And so you look at all of these forces that are at work now. This is going to be an interesting one for the post-analysis to figure out, as you just said, where are people lining up with this? A lot of things we are seeing in this cycle we have not seen before in the numbers that we're seeing.
Yeah, well, with the Jewish vote, usually it's something around 60 to 65% goes Democratic. So we'll see if that happens. And you think about where the Jewish vote is in some of these battleground states like Ohio, Cleveland has a large Jewish population. In Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh have big Jewish population. So potentially it could swing the vote in those two states. So, yeah.
And we're talking about in Wisconsin, for instance. The difference of 0.07% of the votes in one district, I think, decided where the state went. In some cases, we're not talking about a massive change that could, a massive numbers that would affect this. We're talking about relatively small numbers of voters that could swing this election.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of where we were back in 2020, right? I mean, it ended up that, depending on how you feel about the race, Joe Biden was able to outlast Donald Trump. But this time, it seems a lot closer than it was in 2020. And, I don't know what I would tell you to bet today if you're putting down cash on this thing. I know I love to always look at the line. To me, that's sometimes maybe the most accurate, better than the polls, is to see what the betting line is.
But you know what the betting line says.
What does the betting line say today?
Betting line is not today. Over the weekend, it was overwhelmingly Trump.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. So interesting that. Noam, as always, Noam, I know your schedule changes and all of that, but I tell you what, after the election, can we just set aside some time for us to go through and just look at some of these numbers?
I would love to do that. That would be very interesting.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Noam Laden, thank you so much.
Of course.
Your calls are coming up. Thank you, Noam. Your calls are coming up. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley. I didn't even get to the Susan Smith story. You know Susan Smith is up for parole? Yeah, Diego, you don't even know who she was. This woman. Yeah, that's her. South Carolina. She had two little beautiful kids. Drowned them. And then she blamed the black guys. A black guy hijacked my car. A black guy did it. It turns out she did it. She's up. Yeah, she did it. She's up for parole. And AP, is it AP? No, yes, AP has a big story about her parole 30 years after. But we'll get to that. Anyway, time to check in the markets. Time to check in and see what's happening in the world of money. And when we get back, your calls coming up. So don't go anywhere. We're playing this from Otis Redding because it is the birthday of Steve Cropper. He was a guitarist with Booker T and the MGs, but great session musician too. He's playing guitar on this one. He's worked with John Lennon, Dolly Parton, Paul Simon, Art Garfunkel, Rod Stewart. Master guitarist. James Golden, Bo Snerdley. Keep it right here. Don't go away.
I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Yes, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone.
The
views and opinions expressed by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC Radio, its management, or its sponsors.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with Bo Snerdley.
Rush.
Wrapped up like a douche, another runner in the night.
Did he say douche?
Wrapped up like a douche, another runner in the night.
He did. Manfred Mann's birthday is today. Born in 1940. South African, British keyboard player, guitarist, and vocalist. Of course, this was one of his big ones, and I did not know that Springsteen had done this first. But Manfred Mann really broke the charts with this one, Blinded by the Light. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley. It is time.
James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, presents Rapid Phones.
Rick, you're up first from New Jersey. Hello, Rick.
Vote for Trump, save America. And for P. Diddy, how about hashtag he touched me too?
Well, there you go. Me too for P. Diddy. We had a caller, by the way, thank you, Rick, who was online, and I wanted to take his call, but he hung up. He said we were making fun, and he was a little upset we were making fun of the men. And I just want to be clear about something. I'm not making fun of the men that are making these allegations. I'm making fun of the Washington Post. The Washington Post, one of these insufferable leftist rags, always is pointing their finger at people, claiming that they're homophobes, this, that, the other, and every other ism and schism in society. And yet, in their coverage, they say, but the thing that's really, really important here is that these are men. I thought that wasn't supposed to matter to people. Why is it that the important thing to the Washington Post? That's who I was making fun of, to be clear. Okay, Barbara in New York, you are up next. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, how are you? I have a couple comments. With the Marine that's on trial for murder, okay, all they keep saying is the man was homeless and high. What difference does that make? How's that guy going to get a fair trial if that's all they're going? Just because you're homeless, if you were homeless, what, you're not supposed to be, we're supposed to be more lenient as a society? If the jury knows he was homeless and, high, are they going to be more, tougher on the Marine? It's just not right. And it's also if it was a black, it's a black and white issue. If it was two white people, two black people, and this crime was committed on each other, this would never be in the news. The trial would go on.
Alvin Bragg ought to be ashamed of himself for bringing this case on. This man was trying to protect people, period. And he used his training. He did not intend to kill this guy whatsoever. He intended to stop someone from being hurt. The case never should have been brought should have never been brought to trial. It's outrageous, actually. Joe in New Jersey, you are up next.
Yes, Saturday on the John Catsimatidis, Rita Crosby show, they had John Solomon on, who was reporting that there was possible witness tampering by Liz Cheney on the January 6th committee.
Yep.
Yes. She's out there campaigning with whom?
With Kamala. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn, New York. How are you, Robert?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. In the New York State ballot, there's a proposal for equal rights amendments, and New York Republicans are claiming that would allow the mutilation of children without even parental consent.
Yes, and you called with this the other day, and we took the call, and you're back with the same call. And we acknowledged it then. Yes, it is on the ballot, and people should vote wisely. Jacqueline in Brooklyn, New York. How are you, Jacqueline?
James, I'm doing great, and I hope you are as well. That statement by Liz Cheney, or as I like to refer to her, Darth Vader's daughter, trying to appeal to Republican women or maybe women that are pro-choice, pro-life rather, and are anti-abortion, those women, I hope, are smart enough to realize Donald Trump was one time a Democrat, and when he realized the Democrats were taking us down the wrong path, he changed his party and his allegiance to the Republican Party. And women need to be smart enough to realize that and to know that they're being sold a bill of goods to get Harris into office. We need President Trump. They need to vote for President Trump.
Now, let me just ask you a question. Do you think that anyone is taking Liz Cheney seriously, or is she just talking to the wind here? Do you think that she's really persuading people that would not normally go in that direction for Kamala Harris to actually, I'll vote for Kamala because Liz Cheney has now given me permission to? Do you think that that's... Right. Go ahead.
Understand how at this point, anyone, whether it's a man or a woman, how could anyone be undecided with everything that we've seen that the Biden-Harris administration has perpetrated on this country, men and women, all the citizens of the United States, for the past 4 years, and do not have the intellect to realize all the wonderful things that President Donald Trump did for this country.
We've got 2 weeks. And we had a whole slew of sound bites, which we are going to keep for tomorrow because we have Kamala, and we have more Kamala, and we have Tim Walz, and we have the Bronx, the barber shop. So all of that and more tomorrow, God willing. May God bless and protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me and allowing me to be with you. God willing, we will be back tomorrow with those sound bites. For both Snerdley's Rush Hour, the Tuesday edition. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.